Hey, Bomb Squad, Dan here. Have you been thinking about starting a podcast, but you don't know where to begin? Are you completely clueless? Are you completely lost? If so, you're in luck because I have the solution for you. It's Anchor by Spotify, the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Anchor has the tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. We use it, and you should too. So download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm and start your podcast today. Christina Kleemann and Danny DeVito's hotter cousin. That's what's coming up on The Art of Bombing, episode 260.
My friend Dan, he's got a podcast, 'cause all comics need a podcast, and nobody had a podcast called The Art of Bombing. So Dan went out and bought a tape deck. Who knows why he bought a tape deck? Podcasts don't get played on tape decks, but Dan is from the 80s. So hey there, all you funny jerks, come talk to Dan about your work. Tell him all about your worst times. It's The Art of Bombing.
Welcome to an all-new episode of The Art of Bombing. I am your host, Dan Bublitz Jr., and with me, as always, is my co-host, my cohort, and co-producer, Josh Shirley. How are you doing today, Josh?
Fan-damn-tastic, Dano. Doing good.
That's great to hear. I'm glad to hear it. This is, in case anybody's curious, if this intro and outro this week sound a little different, we are recording a little differently. I am recording remotely. I'm not in the studio. I'm in the bedroom that I'm staying at my mother-in-law's tonight because I'm on my way to Sioux Falls for Snow Jam Comedy Festival. So I apologize in advance if for any audio discrepancies this week.
Yes, nice. I definitely saw that. There's pictures on the wall that are not normally there, guys. Dan is at his mother-in-law's
That is
house.
actually my partner and her sister on the wall behind me when they were in high school. So very different. Yeah, very different. Yeah. So but you had a great weekend because you had a show at Hazel's this last weekend. How did that go for you?
Well, let me tell you. Okay, so for those of you guys who don't know, Dan and I did a series of Between Bombs recently. There's 3 of them. You can go look them up, and it will tell you everything you need to know about promoting your own comedy show. Because we did that exercise, I stuck by the book and sold the place out. Now, I did more than that.
So you followed the advice that we put out there on promoting and producing your own show, and you sold out your show.
How about that?
That's fantastic.
I'm telling you, it worked. Now, I also brought some data back for everybody that I think people will find interesting. If you've ever produced your own show, this should resonate with you. If you're looking to do it, listen to the episodes and then listen to this. So I had 3 ways to collect tickets, or there were 3 ways to collect tickets. Meaning the destination that everyone was looking for to actually purchase their ticket was in 3 different places. And I tied those things off to different promotion activities. Here's what I mean. So
when you say 3 different ways to get tickets, are you saying you had it on 3 different platforms, ticketing platforms?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep, 3 different ticketing
platforms. Clarify that a little bit. Okay.
So good question. Let's actually start there. So Hazel's has their own e-commerce ticketing platform that lives on their website. So it's a native platform that came with whatever they're using to host their website. So I don't know what it's called, but that's one of them. Second,
so we just call that on the website.
On the website,
locally on your website.
Sales, local website e-commerce sales. So second was a brown paper tickets link, and third was a Eventbrite link. So on Eventbrite, I sold 25 tickets. on brown paper tickets, I sold 18. And
I
Hazel's
didn't realize brown
sold
paper
22.
tickets was still going.
It's still around.
I a while back I heard that they were having some issues, and
they're having issues paying out right now.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure why, but
it's but that's been kind of an ongoing thing I've heard. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I digress.
Yeah, so it had been a while since I had actually done a Hazel show using brown paper tickets, and for what it's worth, it was a lot different this time. Like I hadn't sold this many tickets there in about 10 or 11 months, so it was a significant difference. But here's the thing I want people to know. So at Hazel's, they were doing their own, marketing and promotion for it through they have a newsletter, and they have some social, and they're doing other things, and like with signage in store. They sold 22 tickets with all that stuff. My 25 tickets that I sold on Eventbrite, I only had that Eventbrite link in email, on Yelp, and on the let's see, where else did I put that? I had I had it on Bands in Town, like a concert link.
Yep, I use Bands in Town.
Yeah, I haven't really gotten much traction for that, so I don't think a lot of stuff came through Bands in Town.
I like Bands in Town just for the fact that it integrates very well into your own website for your own scheduling. Yeah. So that's where I list all my shows, is through there, and then it populates on my website. Looks real nice. It's good.
Nice. So with brown paper tickets, I had that on the Facebook invite. The only place you could find it was on the Facebook invite, and I was pushing the comics to promote that on their own social, and I was running my own social on that as well. That was, it was pointing people to it. So on a high level, I have about 300 subscribers on email. And
wow, that's amazing. Yeah. I have 10.
Well, 25 tickets were sold with that. So as long as I'm doing something, and all these people are in the, in my KC metro area, and, as long as I'm doing something here, I know people are seeing it. It's one of the most effective ways to sell tickets to shows. And one of the most ways that you can, we talked about this being an active way to promote. So anyway, those are the facts. People can look at them and kind of determine things on their own. Yeah.
I will have to say, just kind of adding on to that, your success. It's one thing that somebody else talked me into about. I was trying to just use my website to promote tickets, and they're like, well, it doesn't hurt to have it on these other sites, even though you're trying to drive traffic to your website. And I thought, well, I know I want that traffic on my site, but I broke down and did it, and I end up selling tickets on Eventbrite, because one thing that's nice about Eventbrite is that they do a lot of their own promoting and stuff with events and stuff. So it's
brown
good.
Paper Tickets has that too.
So it's good to have those multiple platforms for people to buy tickets.
Yeah. So if you don't know what we're talking about, guys, if you just by virtue of creating your own event on a ticketing platform, they will do some syndication for you to other partners.
Yep, absolutely.
And that'll boost awareness.
For sure. And one quick, just before we move on to our guest, we have a fantastic guest today. If you listened last week, our guest this week is Christina Kleemann. Had a fantastic conversation. But before we get there, I got one quick question about all this. So you have it on 3 different ticketing sites. What did you do to try to keep track of where was selling? As far as, you have X amount of seats. If you sold 25 here, 18 here, and so how are you keeping track of knowing when to cut sales from one platform?
Good question. So I was just watching both platforms, and I was surprised to find, so brown paper tickets, if you do that, it sends you a sales report every night.
Yep.
And so every night, I had it up there for 10 days before the show. Every night, 0, 0, 0. Day of the show, 14. I was like, whoa, something blew up last night. So I watch it through those platforms. I couldn't see Hazel's.
So do you just adjust them as you need to?
I do. And I had it set at 50 max for both, which I know would have been way too many people for that space. But I did just watch them and babysit them, and I shut sales off around noon on Saturday, and then made announcements on social and stuff for people to contact the store directly.
Awesome. Well, that's great. Well, congratulations on your sold-out show, and putting the stuff that we talked about into practice to prove that it works.
It works.
It works. Make sure you're checking out the Between the Bombs. It is now a subscriber feature. We decided to put that stuff behind a paywall, but you can subscribe to the podcast for $2.99 a month. You're going to be getting some bonus content. You're going to get ad-free and early release episodes that, normally our episodes come out on Friday. If you're subscribing for $2.99 a month, they come out at the latest on Thursday. That's anywhere from Wednesday to Thursday, but they do come out early and they come out ad-free. So again, if you want to get into that, go subscribe. All you got to do, wherever you're listening to this podcast, just open up your podcast player, open up the info on our podcast, and there will be a little button that says subscribe, and you can just do it all right through there. So real easy peasy. So do that there. And remember to stick around after this conversation for our takeaways. I think it's time to get into this conversation with Christina. What do you think, Josh? You think you're ready?
Let's meet Christina now.
Enjoy.
And now, it's time for the stand-up soundbite.
A little bit about me, you guys. I grew up in North Dakota. That's boo. A lot of the men that I've dated are a lot like my mattresses. They are white, heavy, and full of cum. Or vomit. I would like to say that I'm 36 and I don't have kids and I'm actively trying to get raped, because at the rate I'm going, it's just not going to happen. Sorry. My own rape joke? Oh my God. Fuck me. Jesus Christ. Christina, keep it together, you fucking slut. No. I don't know if you guys know, we have like so many different body types. There's like the dad bod, there's the beer belly bod. I would like to say that I have the IRS bod. It comes with varicose veins and a pancake ass. Sorry, you guys, I'm a little nervous. I have an upset stomach, and I'm just so happy to be here, you guys. Comedy. So I'm sorry. I have like a cod mouth, but I promise I'm not stoned, because if I was, you guys would know about it. I did cocaine a few weeks ago for the first time, but it was like a small like Britney Spears "Hit Me Baby One More Time" amount, Like I was just like this is really good ADHD. Like this is really good ADHD medication. And then last summer I did shrooms for the first time, and it was fucking amazing, you guys. So I love drugs is what I'm trying to say. I fucking love drugs. I used to think, you guys, that I identified as like a pear-shaped body type, and I was like, well, that's good because my body reminds men to get their daily fruit intake. Fine. Now I feel like I identify as an hourglass body type because I'm in a hurry for men to hurry up and fertilize my eggs.
It's the art of bombing.
Oh, is it on now?
Now it's on.
Okay,
oh,
now
shit.
it's on. Oh, shit.
I got so distracted. By that little rant that I did.
Yeah.
I thought I hit record, but did not hit record.
What audio school did you go to?
Well, we already established that I'm from South Dakota, so...
The one where you did mushrooms.
Yeah, maybe.
No.
I did a show last night with a comic who sells mushrooms after the show. And not like...
Austin Brinker.
Yes.
I know.
Yes.
I know. I gotta buy his fucking mushrooms. I love mushrooms.
I got some mushrooms from him. But it was funny because afterwards, some other people bought mushrooms from him. And I went out to a bar with some of the people that were at the show. Yeah. And we were at this bar, and they just had their bags of mushrooms. And this lady came in, and they were pretty drunk by this time. And they're like, hey, you want some mushrooms? And this lady is just like, they kind of talking or whatever. And then she took one and took a bite. And her daughter-in-law was with her. And she's like, what are you doing? sounded like she was freaking out.
Because she thought they were psychedelic.
Yeah, and then I was like, oh God, we're gonna get arrested. They're gonna get us arrested. I was like, no. They're like food mushrooms. They're not psychedelics. They're regular mushrooms.
That's so hot. Even if they were psychedelics, knock your fucking self out.
But then it was so funny because then, right after I said that, one of the guys is like, yeah, I bought them from this comic at the comedy show. And I'm like, yep, everything I just said went out the door. Does not believe that these are not psychedelics.
Take a few of them and fucking find out. Take a few of them and find out.
Definitely not helping my cause, trying to get you not arrested.
So, Dan, can we talk about, well, okay, first of all, two things. So I'm kind of tickled that South Dakota even has a comedy scene, because having grown up in North Dakota, like, I lived there from I lived in my childhood house, like off of 7th Street from 1988 to 2000. And then I think I lived in Fargo from my sister was born in 86. So from I don't know, maybe 85 or something. I really have to ask my parents about these timelines because I'm a little unsure. Or I was doing mushrooms by Austin.
Maybe. Well, to live in those states.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of helps.
You have to get through. You have to drink.
You have to have a coping mechanism.
Yeah. So what was
drinking, mushrooms,
yeah,
drugs,
acid,
meth.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah. Shoot wild animals. I don't do that. I never shot wild animals on them. So what was the comedy scene like in South Dakota?
Well, when I started, I mean, obviously there wasn't a ton. It wasn't like any. I mean, there was a scene, but it wasn't like crazy. They had one comedy club, and there was a handful of and the mic, they did an open mic once a month, and there wasn't really any other open mics or shows out in the state, really, outside of this one city, which is Sioux Falls, and then. Over the years, it's grown. I mean, we have 2 comedy festivals in South Dakota now, which is crazy. Zach Moss runs the one in the Black Hills.
Oh, that's so crazy.
And then I have one that I'm a co-producer and a board member on that I do in Eastern South Dakota in Sioux Falls. So now it's got two comedy festivals and little pockets of scenes. South Dakota is just one giant scene. That's how we always see it.
Right.
So either people who live in other towns, they're all considered locals, if you will. But there's little pockets. Sioux Falls has got a pretty decent scene. They have a comedy club there. There's a lot of independent shows there, a lot of open mics there. Then there's a comedy room up in Brookings, and then there's comedy in Watertown and Aberdeen and Rapid City, and then pop-up shows, little independent one-nighters or whatever that pop up in the small towns all over. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, when you think of South Dakota, you don't think there would be a comedy scene, but there actually is. Pretty good one too. There's some pretty decent comics that live in South Dakota.
Hell yeah, that's really. I mean, I think that one of the perks to it is that you get a lot of time to write, and you don't have to be so consumed every single night with I gotta go to a mic, or if you don't, you'll feel guilty.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because there's not enough mics to do that. I mean, now in Sioux Falls, you can probably get up 3 or 4 times a week, but compared to a place like Denver, 3 or 4 times a week is nothing. Because you can get up on some nights 3 or 4 times in one night if you do it right,
Right, yeah.
In Denver.
If you get to the first open mic before 2 hours before it starts, then you can hit every. Yeah. I'm kidding. It's not like that, but I mean, we have a really good scene though.
Yeah. You seem pretty active. You seem like you're pretty active in the scene, hitting a lot of the mics and stuff in the shows.
I'm trying to fuck. No, I'm kidding. I do. No, I do. It's so funny because the times that I feel like I've done the best at an open mic were the times that I literally went up on stage. I didn't give any fucks. I just told my, truth. And I think the thing that I think the space as an artist that I'm slowly finding myself emerging into is to really be confident on stage, not have to think about it that much, and then just kind of own that space, because I mean, if you can become a good writer and then you can be comfortable in your own space and have fun with that, and then kind of bring improv to the stage, that's a triple threat. You know what I mean? So I think that for me, I'm breaking through my own set of nerves, but the thing that I love the most about comedy is that if you're not afraid to bomb and you're not afraid to get laughs, and I've had so many amazing comics that I look up to that are record your sets, so that's what I've done. not all the time, but that's what I've done recently. And even though listening to my own voice makes me cringe, like
just a minute ago you said you like hearing yourself talk. So which is it?
You know, Dan, if I can confuse the fans.
You're just lucky that wasn't recording. Because I didn't hit the record button.
Do you think I know the trajectory of my own life, let alone my own voice? Do you think I know what I want out of my own voice? No. But I mean, like, it's so... I think the thing is that, and I've done some self-reflection over the past couple of days without mushrooms. And I think the thing that I've discovered is that even with some of the experiences that I've been through, like, my ego, which I'm not proud to say this, but my ego got super big and played the victim role like a motherfucker and was like, oh, why did this thing happen to me? And, like, over the past couple of days, I'm like, okay, that situation sucked. And that person that I trusted, that was a confidant, that I cared about, betrayed me. But it's like, it was a very humbling lesson to know that, like, I'm not perfect. And even if I have the best of intention, if I piss somebody else off and they don't see it that way, they're free to do whatever they want. You know, they're free to retaliate. And I think comedy is much the same, that you really have to figure out what it is that you want to talk about. And, like, I think for me, the biggest thing is, like, learning how to connect with the audience and doing crowd work. And, like, it's so funny, like, how for me, comedy and acting go, like, hand in hand, as far as, like, I want them so bad that, like, I'm willing to be more confident and be more vulnerable and just
you
let
do
go
a lot of
myself.
acting? Are you trying to do a lot of acting?
Trying, yeah.
Nice.
I'm gonna try to go to, like, Big Fish Talent, like, next week or whatever, and, like, do that whole process. But, you know, that's the fun part of comedy, is, like, you put yourself out.
Oh
like,
yeah, absolutely.
You look like a
I've
bitch.
I've done some acting, but I wouldn't say I'm an actor. I've been fortunate and got to do a couple, like, regional type commercials and stuff, and just some fun stuff, but
Yeah.
it's not me.
I was
good
gonna
at
say
it.
something, Dan, that I hope that you wouldn't take offense to, because it's meant to be a big compliment.
Oh God.
No, it's good. Don't cancel me with this podcast, please. No. But I was gonna say, you look like you are Danny DeVito's hotter cousin.
Oh, hey, I'll take it. I mean, I'm the hotter cousin.
You are the hotter cousin. So acting isn't for you, though?
I mean, it's all right.
Yeah.
I feel like for I think comedy,
Mm-hmm.
I think acting is kind of a necessary evil. Like, in the same with, like, social media. It's part of, because you can't just do comedy
Right.
and make a living unless you blow up. But in order to blow up, you got to blow up for another reason. Granted, with social media, people are blowing up on social media with just comedy, so that's helping. But a lot of times, you know, your most successful comedians that are selling out arenas, it's not because of just stand-up. It's because they were in this other thing that got them all those fans that now they can sell out. So it's kind of a necessary, just like having a podcast. They're different forms of getting your name out there.
Right,
And that's how I
exactly.
look at acting.
Yeah.
It's there. It can be fun.
Yeah.
I'm not good at it. I think that's part of the reason I don't like to do it. I've taken a couple classes, a couple acting classes, a couple improv classes, but I'm not that great at it. And I think part of it is because I'm not actively trying to pursue it. You know, I would rather write a sitcom than be on a sitcom.
That's fair.
You know,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
Sorry, can your microphone hear me picking my nose?
no.
Oh, damn it. I was hoping to get you ratings. I failed.
Trying to suddenly turn this into ADR or something.
Yeah,
I don't know,
exactly.
maybe.
Yeah.
Then maybe this is how I get famous. I have
Yeah.
the podcast starts getting clipped for ADR, and then boom, I'm the ADR
Yeah.
comic now.
Yeah. So, Dan, let's quickly talk about, before we dive in further.
Who's doing this podcast? Me or you? You just come right in and you're like, I got questions for you. What is this, like therapy or what's going on?
Therapy. No, I'm still disgusted by the frappe mochas I've been having at McDonald's. I'm not proud of my choices, but I'm turning the ship around. Okay. Anyway, as you were.
It must have really affected you hard, huh?
It did. I was like,
Does sugar really, like, get you, like, amped up?
I think it
or-
does. It
yeah.
just messes with my anxiety. And I'm like, no wonder I'm a fucking mess. Because whether it's men or food, I don't stick the right things in my body. So, like, this is so gross. Like, you know, Dan, I'm trying to look hot. A girl's got to eat.
Well, yeah, I'd say eat.
Yeah, you.
I mean, I've not missed a meal, and it shows.
You look beautiful.
Oh, thank you. You're
Yeah.
gonna make me all blush on the podcast.
You look like you started keto.
I look like what? That I started keto?
You look like you're starting keto.
Oh, no.
No.
Is it because of my shirt, the way I'm dressed, or what? Like, what? Like, all of a sudden, you're, like, roasting me. You're just suddenly roasting me. You're like, you look like you started keto. Like, what? What
No, you
is
look.
it?
You look lovely. What is it? I'm
That's
very
like-
confused, Christina. What?
I am. I'm like, what's going on here? Suddenly, I'm getting roasted. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time, and rightfully so.
I will never roast you down. I will respectfully.
Oh, okay.
Tell you.
Respectfully insult you.
I will respectfully insult you. Yes, I totally will.
I will not roast you. I will respectfully insult you. I have class, all right? I have class, goddammit.
Yeah. Okay. Trying to get into heaven here.
That's all right. I had a shirt on earlier. I was trying to find some clothes or shirts that go with these pants.
Wait, what pants are you wearing?
I'm wearing just blue, like, slacks. Just yeah.
Sorry,
they're
I
new.
didn't check you out while
No,
you were
that's
sitting in
fine.
your kitchen.
No, that's fine. Wouldn't expect you to. That'd be weird.
No.
But I was trying to find a shirt that would go with it because it's just a weird blue color. Like not everything goes with it. But I had a sweater on that I tried on, and I was like, yeah, this makes me look. I look like like a really bad stepdad or something. It was atrocious.
A really bad stepdad. Oh, to your dogs.
Yeah.
Really bad stepdad.
Yeah,
to
really
your-
bad stepdog. I'm a really bad stepdog to my dogs.
To your dogs.
Yep,
Are
stepdog.
you really bad stepdog? Oh my god. Dogs are so much cheaper than kids.
They are. That's why I have them. Well, not necessarily. I mean, dogs can add up, especially when you have to take them to the vet. But
Yeah, but you have to take them to school and buy fucking supplies.
That's true,
Every
you
year.
don't.
Or
You
what is
don't.
it? Every semester? No, it's every school year.
every school year.
Yeah, grade school.
And that's how you can tell we don't have kids, right? Because we don't even know when you're supposed to buy school supplies. It's like, is it every year,
What's-
every semester? Do you have to just go shopping every day? How does that work?
What's a protractor? What is a calculator?
It's
Oh,
like I
man.
didn't do school. I mean, I was there, but I didn't do it.
I did Ritalin in school because I was supporting the arts. Man.
And supporting the arts is important. But
Yeah.
getting back to you
Uh-huh.
in acting. So you've been
Oh, am I
actively
fucking up your mic? Sorry. Okay, I really want to make sure that it's up there. Okay, it's good. I'm just gonna talk like that. Yeah.
I'm just gonna note that because I'm gonna edit that out.
Thank you for editing that part out. I like your little notebook.
My little notepad.
Yeah, your little notepad. So now's a good time to burp.
Yeah, get it all out.
I don't have to burp. It's perfectly fine.
Okay. We're
Okay,
back.
we're
Yeah,
back.
So we're back. We're back.
We're back.
Don't break anything.
No, Dan, I won't. I have a control on my anger. I'm not gonna break
Okay,
shit.
good. Well, don't get angry.
No.
Should be happy to be here,
I'm
not mad.
so happy. Get mad. Get glad, not mad.
That's right. Get glad, not mad.
Yeah.
And stay that way. Stay glad, not mad.
Stay glad. Stay happy. Stay
So,
positive.
getting back to the acting,
Mhm.
you do that a little bit. What got you kind of into acting for you? Is it, I mean, are you doing comedy so you can do acting, or is it vice versa?
I'm doing both of them because I really love them. I feel like my personality has always been goddamn throat. I've always blown things out of proportion my entire life. So I just feel like anything that like melodramatic. I've always been melodramatic, but I feel like anything that like really allows me to like, you know, showcase my personality, because like I'm really out there sometimes, and fuck, once I stop like consuming things with sugar, I'm gonna be like fucking all over the fucking place. Like I'm gonna fucking suck so many dicks now. But I just feel like comedy and like acting are like my fun creative spaces.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Where like I can just be, you know, like I can transform into any character, you know, and it's just super fun. Like I want a way to like express myself,
Yep.
you know, and I feel like being in a world of like acting and comedy is, you know, it's wonderful. Like you can be dorky, you can be creative, you can be all the things, and like it's just super fun, you know. So like I feel like acting and comedy are like, it's funny because both of them are full of rejection sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
But I feel like with comedy and acting, like it's kind of allowing me in a way to like step up to like the plate, to step up to like the next best version of myself. And it's one of those things where like the universe is taunting me, but like in a I guess a polite way you could say, but like the universe is taunting me to say, how bad do you really want this, you know? And so it's just been like it's been a fun journey, you know? And I think recently to the name of your podcast, Dan, like The Art of Bombing, like to like really be authentically yourself, you know, people pick up on that. And like I had a set a while ago at Skylark. And it was an open mic, but I had a set a while ago, and it was like one of the best, it was one of the, you know, I was so comfortable, you know, and even Andres Besserell was like, that's the most comfortable I've ever seen you on stage. But I'm trying to think of like because I've done so many. I'm trying to think of, to your questions, I was trying to think of a showcase that I'd had, because I've had quite a few good showcases, but I was trying to think of one that I had where I think it was a showcase that I did a while ago at Rise that it was on, that I had a really good time. But like I'm getting up to the point now where I do like 10 minutes, but I want to get up, like I can do 10 to 15 minutes kind of comfortably.
Yep.
But I think I want to say like by the spring or like summer of next year, I want to get up to a half hour.
And what are you doing to set goals for that? Like, how are you like putting a plan in action to get there? How much time do you spend writing?
See, so that's the thing. Good on you for making me take accountability. But I want to be able to consistently do it to where it's like to where I'm writing like at least 5 minutes, like 3 to 5 minutes a day. Like even if it's just something goofy or something, because like when people have a good set, it's amazing. And when people bomb, you're like, ugh, you know? And like, I think like a few of my friends and I have been talking about how there were so many comics that, you know, were still in the game before the pandemic. And then once the pandemic happened, everybody was like, okay, fuck this, I'm out, you know? And it's like, I think comedy is definitely one of those things where, you know, you either stand the test of time with it or you don't, you know? And so it's just like, I'm learning how to promote. One of the things too is that I think I'm learning how to promote myself better so that I can be like, okay, bookers, okay, producers, you know? Because it's just like, if you don't believe in yourself first, no one's going to believe in you. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
And so you have to not only commit to writing, but you have to have enough confidence to say, I'm available and I know that I have a good solid 10 minutes, because it's just like this coming year in 2023, I want to do what is it, the World Satellite of Comedy or whatever the hell it is. It's like
the World Series of Comedy.
The World Series of thank you. The World Series of Comedy, where you have like 12 satellites. I'm not going to be able to do all of them, obviously, but just to do like a few of them in a different city, like I think like my body, I feel like, is really yearning to like get out and travel for comedy. You know, not to say that I'm done growing in Denver, but you know, to have that experience of taking my material on the road.
Well, and I think to grow as a comedian, you have to go out. You know, you have to travel a little bit, because
right.
you have to test your material in front of all audiences. Because that happens a lot. You'll see comics who will, you know, within their scenes, they'll be considered the greatest comic, and because they're playing to an audience within that region or within that city, they never travel outside, and then they go outside of that area and perform, and they bomb because they're using all these references that nobody else gets.
Right.
You know, so you do, in order to like really get better and progress, you do have to do comedy in different areas, in front of different audiences. It's very important to growth.
And I think just to go to like a different city and like experience that, and like what the people are like and what the culture, like it really, like, I think it broadens you. And if you do struggle, and I think that that's like, I think that that's one of the reasons, Dan, where I'm like, I'm really gonna like start cutting things out of my diet and eating healthier, because it's just like, I don't need to eat shit that like fuels my anxiety, because like, kind of just like the way you trim the fat of a joke, I'm trimming the fat of my diet. You know, I'm like, I'm cutting this out because these things are important enough to me to do them. And like, you know, I mean, slight nerves on stage are one thing, but you don't want to go up there and like lose your ass, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that it's just like, I think that you can tell somebody who's traveled a lot and somebody who writes a lot versus somebody who doesn't. You know, and I think that comedy can be both a mixture of like mingling with people and having that social life, but also doing your job.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? And I find that hard, the mingling part. You know, like I'm not good at mingling.
Right.
And I'm more of I want to just come do my job and then be gone. But that social aspect is kind of important, because you have to build those relationships and you have to build friendships, you know, because having those relationships and friendships can lead to stuff down the road, you know, and it's important to have them connections. But yeah, I get more anxiety about the social aspect than I do performing.
Yeah.
I can go on stage and it's just, I can do, you know, it's not always fine. Sometimes I bomb, but I have zero anxiety. Even when I bomb, I'm just like, whatever. I'm gonna get up tomorrow.
So you just treat it like low stakes, like no
I
big
do
deal.
now,
Yeah.
because I didn't always. That's something that I've, you know, especially through this podcast, that, you know, talking with other comedians and realizing that it is essential to getting better. The bombing is essential to getting better, and failure is essential to success, and all those things. So now I look at it differently. You know, like sure, if I bomb, it puts me in a sour mood and it sucks, but I'm also just like, yeah, but it'll be fine, because tomorrow it's whatever. Yeah. You know, because I've had plenty of good sets. I've had plenty of bad. Right. Sometimes you're going to have an off night. Even the best comedians still have off nights, you know, and they're performing in front of bigger audiences.
Right. Right. Much. So you lived in San Diego for how long?
Like 5 years. It was 5 years, just over.
Did you do a lot of mics in LA?
I went up to LA a few times, yeah. But I mean, I didn't have to go up to LA, because that was the thing. That was the nice thing about San Diego. And, you know, and people who are huge comedy nerds would probably know these comics, but there's a lot of great comics that have come out of San Diego. And it's because there's already great stage time. They have now they have 5 or 6 comedy clubs in San Diego, like premier comedy clubs. I think when I was living there, we had like 4 comedy clubs, but now there's like 5 or 6. And then there was a ton of like independent shows. Like people were coming down from LA to do shows in San Diego because the stage time was better.
That's I could see that.
And it was funny because you would see these guys that would come up in San Diego, then they would move to LA, they would make that move, and then they'd come back to San Diego all the time because they weren't getting up in LA because it's too competitive. There's too many comics.
So is that the same thing we could say about New York?
Probably. I mean, you could probably assume that, but I can't say, because I haven't been there, so I wouldn't know.
I haven't either. I mean, I have so many great things to say about so many people in the Denver comedy scene, but I know that, Damon Howard moved to Chicago, which is wonderful. Like, he's a really good writer. And I know that, there's a few other people. I know that Ben Kissam recently moved there, and a few other people are looking to move there soon. And I definitely think it's one of those things where, even if you're having to, like, pay for stage time, or you're having to, like, fight for stage time or deal with competition, like, it grows you as a person, hopefully. Because it either, it spits you up and chews you out, and then you're like, okay, do I really want this enough, or do I not,
Well, and I think, like, with New York, I think it's a little different in the sense that, like, New York is such a big city. There's so many mics that, like, there's a lot of comedians, but you can still get some stage time. It's not the same, because you don't have a San Diego that's easily accessible.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I suppose if, for somebody, maybe people that lived in Boston and then moved to New York, it might be the same, where they're like, well, I'm not getting enough stage time. I can come back to my home scene back in Boston and get this, get stage time or whatever. I think that would be somewhat of a closer comparison.
Right. I wonder
than moving from, like, the Midwest to one of the bigger cities.
I wonder what the scene in Boston is like.
I mean, it used to be pretty good. I don't know. I haven't been, but some pretty good comics have come out of Boston. I mean,
Oh,
that's
hell
that's kind of how I would gauge a comedy scene, is kind of who came up there and who came out of it, you know. And that's why.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of scenes that are underestimated, or maybe that's not the right word. Maybe that's not the word. I can't think of the right word.
I feel
but,
like under. Yeah,
yeah,
no,
we
I'm
ain't
stuck too.
got it. It's like
God damn it.
I was gonna say underappreciated, but that's not the right word. Or, overlooked. That's a better word.
Overlooked. Yeah,
They're overlooked.
overlooked.
You know, and I think San Diego is one of those scenes that's overlooked. I mean, there are so many great comics that have come out of San Diego. Taylor Tomlinson sells out theaters.
Oh, Taylor, she's one of my
kind of
favorites.
came up.
Oh.
She came up in San Diego. Brian Simpson is another great comic who he's just blown up in the last year. He came out of San Diego. Zoltan came out of San Diego.
Love
Dustin
Zoltan.
Nickerson came out of San Diego. And, you know, Bobby Lee started in San Diego.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
Yeah, I mean, and the list goes on and on and on and on. Like,
Man.
there's so many comics that have started in San Diego and went on to do big things.
That's wild. Holy shit. I envision myself, or at least I try to, like, getting to perform at the Comedy Store, the Comedy Cellar, like, and the funny thing about it, Dan, is that I didn't start comedy until 2018, so like almost 5 years ago, and I was like 33. But it's just like, you know, it's like, it's one of those things where you always think about it, like, what would I have been like if I would have done it like 10 years ago?
Oh,
you
I
know?
totally know. Because similarly, I started when I was 31.
Oh, hell yeah. Fist bump, Dan.
I started in
Dude,
my...
I feel like we should do a cheers to that.
Yeah, cheers to
That's
that.
so
Cheers
hot.
to starting comedy in your
Let's
30s.
drink in this microphone and half the listener.
That's funny. Yeah, I started later in life too,
Yeah.
and I think about that a lot. It's like, well, what if I would have did comedy like right out of high school or in my early 20s? And I think about it a lot because I almost did.
Wow.
I think when I was in my early 20s, I must have been about 22, maybe 23. Maybe I was 22, probably 21.
and you
22.
were in San Diego.
No.
Okay.
I lived in South Dakota at the time.
Oh,
And I was
yeah.
married, and that was part of the reason. I got married very young. So I got married.
What did you meet her in college or what?
No, not even college. We met at a restaurant in the town that I grew up in.
Get down, Dan.
Yeah. We're very young. I was 19. She was 18 when we got married. So it was very very, very young.
Oof.
But that's Midwestern life. They teach you to get married right away. You either go to college and get a job, or you get out of high school and get a job and get married and do all that. And that's kind of what happened to me. But
Okay.
we don't got time for that whole.
We
long
don't got
story.
time for now. No,
that's
no,
for
Dan.
another. That's for another podcast.
Yeah,
But-
have me back again.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
That's
cheers.
a different podcast.
Yeah.
But when I was 21, 22, we kind of separated. Like, we had a big fight, and we almost separated. And in that time, you know, because comedy is something that I always was, you know, a fan of and always attracted to, and it's something just was there. And I went to a comedy show, and I started writing with a friend because I was seriously thinking about doing it.
So even back then, when you were living in South Dakota,
Yeah.
that's
and then
insane.
we got back together, and so I didn't do anything with the comedy. I just went back to my married life and doing that. And then instead I opened a comic book store. So then I was busy with that. But,
Right.
yeah. So then
do you open the comic book store in South Dakota?
Yeah.
Is it still running?
No.
Oh.
No. It closed.
Aw.
It closed.
Yeah.
It I mean, that's what happens when you open a business and then there's a recession. It's
Yeah.
can't do much about it. The economy crashed, and so did a lot of businesses. But it was
Yeah.
a great experience. I learned a lot from
yeah.
it. But then we got divorced, and then after we got divorced, I immediately was like, I'm doing comedy. And
Yeah.
then I went and started doing comedy. So, but I do, like I said, I think about it all the time because I almost started comedy when I was 22,
So what do you think would have happened if
which
you
would have been a
would've-
decade before I started.
That's insane. So how do you think, and I know it's hard to know this because it didn't fold or like unfold that way, but how do you think, Dan, that your life would have been different if so your wife and you were kind of like fighting or going through that little tiff, and you were how old?
Like 22, 21, 22, right in that
22?
ballpark, yeah.
So you were still, if I remember your story correctly, were you opened the comic book store while you guys were still married, and
Yeah.
then the tiff happened, like the little whole separation thing happened or whatever.
That happened before. So that
before?
happened-
Okay.
So yeah, that happened like I think I was 21, 22.
Right.
And then I opened the comic book store with a friend when I was 23.
Okay.
So that was like that little scenario or that situation happened before. And then we mended things and worked things out. And then like a year or so later, I opened up the comic book store.
How different do you think your life would have been if you would have divorced her back then?
Oh, I mean, it's hard to say. It would have been a lot different because
Right.
I might not have. My life went the path that it did, and I don't think I would be where I'm at as far as like in comedy now. I mean, I might be a better comedian, but I think I might not either.
So you gained that experience
because I had experience. I had
Right.
life experience. Because
Right.
I think that's one advantage. A lot of people who
Oh,
are
Dan, sorry to cut you off. You just the listeners need to hear this. You just reinforced something that I needed to hear, which was it gives you and again, going back to the whole victim role, which I'm fucking so good at, and it's disgusting. It's more disgusting than having a fucking mocha frappe every day. But it's like, you know what I mean? But it's just like I've literally like my brain looks for resolution in things, and if I can't talk something out with somebody and have it go a certain way, I guess, and my brain's like, but why, you know?
Yeah.
And like I'll do the whole rumination thing, which blows fucking dick. But it's like you just pointed something out that like I've like you can take pain and use it for you rather than have it, use itself against you,
Oh, absolutely.
And so it's just one of those things where it just was kind of like a nice reinforcement. It was kind of like a breath of fresh air that like everything that I have gone through, even if it really fucking sucked, like it was an experience. And like
absolutely.
I didn't realize until later in life that I was going to love comedy the way that I watched Dave Chappelle and all the other comics when I was in my 20s and stuff, but I didn't realize, and I'm still nowhere near where I want to be. And I'm so humbled to realize that. And I'm also, it's a gratitude to know that I'm like, okay, I'm not where I want to be, but I know that I want to get there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And
No,
so I'm going
absolutely.
to use every stage bombing and everything to make that happen, because that is what comedy means to me. It is an art form, and I enjoy art. I enjoy creating. But it's like, if those things hadn't happened to me, if those traumas or those really icky experiences hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't have anything to like talk about. I wouldn't have anything to relate to.
Oh, absolutely.
So I wasn't, and this isn't, to talk any garbage or anything, but, I have two lovely, wonderful stepsisters in, one of them lives in Iowa, the other one lives in North Dakota. And one of my stepsisters got married to her high school sweetheart. She has a beautiful family with 4 kids, and she's been married for 14 years. So she's never had to go through a lot of loss as far as, relationships, which, good for her, But like, I think, and this is one thing, Dan, like as far as like positivity that I've like really tried to enact, especially, recently, that like everything that like I've been through in life as far as like, childhood trauma started super, super young, and I know that everybody, has childhood trauma and stuff like that. But it's like I was put on Ritalin when I was 5. It was a low dose. And then from there, like, I guess I want to say 5, 15, like 12 years of my life was on Ritalin. And then I was told these tapes from a teacher, that I was never going to amount to anything, just not super encouraging stuff for kids. And so like every day is like a battle for me, like my own little battle of you are good enough, you are this, you are that. But it's like,
Do you do a daily gratitude thing? Or
I have started, yes. I kind of like weave in and out of it, but like even if it's saying I'm, and I think for me the thing that I've discovered that helps is to say I'm grateful for, but to verbalize it, not just to think it in my mind, but to verbalize it so that my mind can hear
Gotta
it.
say it out loud. Put
Yeah,
it in the
say
universe.
that. Yes, exactly.
Say it out loud. Put
yes,
it in the universe.
exactly. And I think that that's the important thing, Dan, is that everything that I've been through. Which, thank you for reinforcing again, everything that I've been through has like made me this really like it's given me this great personality, which I'm super thankful for. And so like that's why anything that like causes me anxiety, like anything that doesn't make me step into like more of my own power, it has to go. You know what I mean? And so it's just like when you have amazing friends like you that walk in and, you know, you give those little nuggets of information, it's super, you know, because it's just like your ego wants to sit there and be like, oh, woe is me, blah, blah, blah. But it's like everybody goes through something.
Oh,
you know,
absolutely.
And nobody goes through life unscathed.
And I think, you know, going back to you asking me where I might be if my life went different, it is hard to say where I might be. I could be selling out arenas now because I could have went and did comedy and got really good at it.
Right.
Or I could have went and tried comedy and did terrible and not did anything with it. But I'm a big believer that things happen how they're supposed to happen. And I look back at that, and even though that marriage didn't work out,
Right.
it helped shape me and who I am. Had I not went through that experience, I might be a completely different person
Right.
too, and not necessarily for the good. Like I feel like, you know, that I'm a pretty decent person, you know, try to be nice to everybody, and part of my, you know, shaping who I am as a person was part of that, you know, going through that marriage and
Right.
having those experiences and living life through that way. So everything happens for a reason, and you know. I know it's so cliche, but
I was gonna say I do hate that saying. That's my own thing to reconcile.
but it happens how
Right.
it's supposed to happen.
Right.
There's things in life you can control, and there's things you can't.
Yeah.
And if you focus on the things you can't, you're gonna get stuck where you're at. You have to let
Yeah.
go of the things you can't control and worry about what you can.
And that is what I'm working on. That has been it's been a struggle because it's just like, you know, you're and I mean, again, like I said, you know, the whole victim mentality of, oh, why did this thing happen to me? But it's just like, and I feel down like I'm stepping more into it, but I'm not like fully in that arena. But like to realize what you do have control over and to be like, I think, and this just kind of hit me right now. I think that like if you struggle to be, you know, because like some of my insecurities and like the way that I feel about myself like has caused me to like create this very powerful fantasy world for myself. But it's also like you can visualize things, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can visualize stuff. But I think where I've fallen into a trap is where I visualize it, and then I think that that's, you know, because sometimes the brain can't distinguish between reality and fantasy. So then that fantasy causes me to feel a sense of entitlement, which is a very blurry line to be a part of. So I definitely think like living in the moment and having like a sense of gratitude is something that, you know, I'm only recently starting to do, which is sad to admit. But I definitely also think that if you struggle with humility, the universe is going to give you a lesson to teach you humility,
absolutely.
You know?
Oh, absolutely.
So like
It's going to keep throwing it
Right.
at you until you learn.
It's going to keep saying, listen, motherfucker, you need to fucking check yourself.
It's time to be grounded.
Right, exactly. And so it's just like, so I'm learning that I can still visualize things, but I also have to, you know, be humble and be grateful. And like, that's why, like, I'm learning that it's okay to be confident and to put yourself out there and to promote yourself, but also to express gratitude. So
it's important.
Like, yeah,
it isn't. Gratitude is important. But you know, we're almost 40 minutes in and haven't heard your story about bombing. You're not getting out of here without telling this story.
Okay, so one time, so there was actually one time at Rise that I did the study hall thing that Brad Galley throws, or that he hosts or whatever, produces.
Yep.
And it was like probably 3 or 4 people. So I did like some old material and some new material. And then I absolutely bombed. Like I've bombed a few different times at like a few different
shows. And that's
shows.
a show when you're supposed to be doing all new material, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched it the other, just a couple weeks ago, actually. Happened to be in Denver, and I went to that show and checked it out.
Yeah, so it's just like there have been a few different.
I mean, not the one where you bombed, but
yeah, there have been like I've had like a handful of I did what is her last name? I always screwed up. Deborah Lastowski or whatever. Do you know who I'm? She had a show.
I don't know that person personally,
Okay.
but I think they just followed me on Facebook today. Actually.
Really? Yeah. So
But-
she let me do like a 5-minute guest spot at I forget what Oasis Brewery. Yeah, I think it was Oasis Brewery or something. And I bombed really hard. And here's the funny reason, because I had just woken up from a nap, so I still had nap vibes. And sometimes when I nap at night, I wake up with like the worst anxiety.
Isn't like napping at night, isn't that just called sleep?
No, it's not, Dan. It's not. Shut your mouth. No, it's not. It's called adult resting.
Naps are during the day. At night, it's called sleep.
No, but it. But it was a nap because I got off work at 2 p.m. and it was right after that I was not sleeping, I was napping. Yeah. But like I'm definitely I want to have obviously more good sets. So it's one of those things where I'm doing also a better job of like kind of like writing up my set list to figure out what I'm going to say. So there have been like a few different times.
So what happened there? I mean, you obviously you weren't quite awake yet, but like what?
I had like the worst. Oh, I had the worst anxiety, and then my fucking phone, like the screen was cracked back then, and now it's not. So my phone was acting up, and like it. I like had punched it so many fucking times doing Amazon Flex because Amazon Flex pisses me off because the app sucks. Fuck you, Jeff Bezos. And so I would like when it doesn't work, I get
shout out to you, Luke.
When
There's a friend of mine that does Amazon Flex. He can probably relate.
Yeah, give me his number. No, but like so when it doesn't work sometimes, like I hit it so hard, and again, this is where the anger management comes in. I like hit it so hard against my steering wheel because I'm so pissed. I'm like, God damn it. And so I did that like over the course of like 6 months and just fucked up my phone. Like I'm surprised the fucking screen was still working, but it was like so my iPhone kept on saying, iPhone currently unavailable. Check again in like 5 minutes or 15 minutes. And then one time it was like an hour. And so I was running like I literally had gotten in my car. My iPhone decided to start doing this, and I didn't know how to get there.
Oh,
and so I was like, fuck, and I try to always be punctual, right? Because it's super huge, super professional. So I just randomly, I go down Lincoln and then like get to the 20th Street area or whatever. And then I made a right on some random street, and I guess that was the street. And so I parked my car right across the way from like this ice cream restaurant or some shit like that. And then I walk in there and I'm like, hey, do you guys know where this venue is? And they're like, oh, it's 2 blocks away from where you are. So I get back in my car and then I drive. So it was.
So you were already frustrated going in because you're having trouble getting there.
Yeah. I was like, you know what? Everything sucks. So yeah. So that was
one of them days.
So that was, but I mean, I'm honestly like overall, Dan, like I'm getting okay. Like if I have a great set, that's wonderful. And that's obviously what you want for like comedy festivals and videos. But like, I'm also like, if I bomb, I'm okay with that. Cause I'd much rather, I want to be in the presence of the crowd and like feel their energy as opposed to being so worried about how I'm performing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
being present is important.
Yeah.
It's really important.
Yeah.
So when you have a set that doesn't go well, and you go, if you record it and you go back, what are things that you try to figure out how do you analyze it, and what do you try to take away from it to then put forward in your next set to prevent, something like that from happening again?
So I think what I try to do, Dan, is I do try to work on being more in the present, and I try to tell myself, okay, and I think one of the biggest things is that I'm like, okay, clearly I need to have more confidence and I need to have that whole, believe in myself factor. So I think that's one thing. And I try to, because I truly believe like it's one of those things where the audience knows your energy before you get on stage. So like if you're already thinking that everybody's going to hate you or that you're going to suck or that you're not going to do that well, that's what it's going to be. So you really have to go up there with like this whole vibe of I'm going to fucking rock it. I'm going to own it. I'm going to, the crowd and I are going to have a great time. We're going to connect. There's going to be laughter. There's going to be a connecting.
Well,
like
yeah,
I do that
I'm
in my
just
hands.
laughing because I'm like, but then you have to find that fine line where you're not overconfident.
Right. No. Where you're not. Dan's like, I would know. No. Where you're not.
No, I've seen comics that are like overly confident,
cocky, yeah.
and then they go out there and it doesn't go well.
Right. Yeah.
Like there's a difference between being confident and like and just being cocky.
So when you see those people on stage, you're probably like, you are so gross.
I wouldn't go that far, but it's
that's
amusing.
What I would do,
it's amusing to watch.
Yeah, you're like that's that's what you're not supposed to do.
That's the universe bringing that humility factor in that we talked about earlier. That's what that is.
Yeah,
that's the universe telling you to stay humble. So. Mm-hmm. Take some notes, buddy.
and going back to your question, Dan, like I also try to like reformulate like my set or like a joke that I have and like figure out how, I can make it hit more. And I know that every Wednesday, Rise, Christy Beakley has like that like little writing workshop or whatever. But then like one thing that I really want to do more to like enhance my performance as an artist is to like take like more improv classes and more acting classes and kind of like get myself out there.
Yeah, and I think improv is great for comedy. I mean, I know a lot of stand-ups are like, oh, improv is what and
right.
There's that whole like feud between the two, and I think improvisers could take skills from doing stand-up, and stand-up can learn from doing improv classes. Well, and I've taken improv classes, and I don't like doing improv. I'm terrible at improv. It's not my thing.
Right.
But the classes themselves and the things that I learned from them, very helpful for stand-up. In fact, I got better as a comedian because I was more confident on stage.
Right.
Because of the improv. Even though I'm not good at doing improv performances.
Let's go back to this. So why do you think you're not good at improv?
It's not my thing. I think there are people who are really good at it, and there are people who are not, and I'm one of the people who are not. I'm not. I think that also has to do with the fact that I'm not a great actor, because a lot of improvising is acting.
Right.
I mean, it's acting on the spot, but I'm not a great actor, so now you want me to try to act and create this at the same time?
Right on the spot,
you know what I mean?
too.
Like, yeah, exactly. So,
dude,
I think that's a lot of it. I'm just not, and I think a part of it is just it's not my vibe. I like being on stage by myself under a spotlight in front of the microphone next to a stool. I don't want to be on the stage
next to a stool
full of a bunch of bright light, a fully lit room with 3 other people. And, and that's the thing with improv. An improv team is only as strong as their weakest link. And when you're the weakest link, you don't want that. That's a lot. That's too much.
You don't want that.
And I think, for me anyway, I'm pretty self-aware. Like, I know my strengths. I know my weaknesses.
Right.
I know I can.
Must be nice, Dan, to be so fucking self-aware.
Well, I wouldn't say. I mean, I'm sure there's things in my life where I'm completely oblivious. But when it comes to performing, I know I'm not a great improviser. I know I'm not a great actor. I'm the first to admit it. So, and I'll be the first to be like, yeah, I suck. I know. I'm doing my best.
I know. I'm doing my best.
But that being said, I got a lot out of taking the classes.
Yeah. Where did you take them at?
I took them in San Diego. Well, I took them in San Diego, and then I did take I took an improv class in St. Paul, Minneapolis when I was out there.
Yeah.
I would have taken more with that instructor, but I was getting ready to move, and they didn't do a level 2 yet because she just started her school there, and so I did level 1 with her, and then she didn't do level 2. She decided to do another level 1. And so then by the time she was getting things built up to where she could do a level 2, it was too, I was getting ready to move. So I was like, I'm not going to do it. And so that's why I didn't continue with her. But I took a bunch in San Diego because there was an improviser who also did stand-up, and he started doing improv classes specifically for stand-ups.
Oh, wow.
So he was like doing them out of like some of the comedy clubs, but he was specifically, this is just for stand-ups. Come do improv because you can learn a lot from improv. That, like, for example, for me, one of the things that I took away from improv is that having that confidence. Like, I know before I before I took the classes, if I got heckled, I didn't know how to respond. Like, I would just try to ignore it and hope it went away. Like, I didn't have the confidence to engage. I would just try to ignore it. Then I took improv and I got that, more confidence and it helped me think quicker and sharper. Then after that, if somebody heckled me, I could respond. It might not be great because, again, I'm not a great improviser.
Right.
But I had the, I had the tools and the confidence to do it. Whereas before I didn't. I was too afraid to engage.
Damn.
Now, after taking improv classes, not afraid to engage, even if I sucked when I engaged.
And like, you can write so many, like, if you get heckled on stage, you can write, like, I mean, there's got to be good material that can come from that, even if it's like a 50-second little engagement or something. There's
absolutely. I mean, they're
something...
putting. You look on all like TikTok or Instagram Reels, YouTube. Those are the videos that blow up. There's a lot of them out there. Like, now it's to the point where I think comics do it on purposely try to engage so they can get content for social media.
So they can have their Instagram
More power
reel.
to them. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that's a good point though, Dan, because I know that, Sam Talent did improv for 9 years before he did stand up or something, and then Hannah Jones, who's an amazing writer. So like, I definitely obviously before my schedule, I was doing improv, like the drop-in classes at Rise. So I want to get back into that because I definitely think that there's like, if you have an ability to write on stage, like especially if it's like audio or video, that you're recording with, but if you have an ability to like think quickly on your feet, like that's golden.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And speaking of thinking quickly on your feet, when you tell a joke and it doesn't land how you think it should, or you feel like you're starting to bomb and lose your crowd, what goes through your mind in that moment, and then how do you try to turn it around?
So in the spirit of honesty, that is something that I still struggle with. Speaking of the confidence, Dan, that is something that I'm still like working myself up to level wise. There's been like a few different, and one of my good buddy friends, Jeff Cohen, we do comedy talks quite a bit. But he was talking about, and I think that this is where the confidence comes into play and not having like so many nerves or knowing what to do with the nerves. But I feel like, being confident and kind of like being in that space of, oh shit, I'm bombing. Where do I go with this? Like, I think it's difficult, but I think that you can learn a lot from that because like you have to like quickly think on your feet. Okay, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go with it? Like, what's going to be next? Like, how am I going to revive the room, And so one of the things that I really do want to do for myself is to go back to improv and really have that confidence, because like you can pick somebody from the audience and like completely effing roast them. And then like next thing you know, your audience is back. So I think I definitely...
Unless you're too mean and then you lose the whole audience. They're like, what?
Yeah, I've seen people do that where they were like, I was like, oh.
Like went a little too hard.
The room is a little gone right now, but okay. So yeah, I definitely think just like confidence and like, really stepping into that next level of myself. So it's still something that I struggle with. I've had a few different times where like, and I keep bringing up Rise because it is one of my favorite mics, but like I've had a few different times where like I was heckled or something and I said something that was like, I really stepped into like the heckling and I said something funny and, I got laughter from the audience and I was like, fuck yeah, this is great, So I think it's kind of like, it's having that moment with yourself and really figuring out what you want from that moment, and it's being like comfortable and like humble and not like, not like being like, oh shit, there's no, I'm sure that there's so many great comedians that have had that moment where they were like, oh fuck, what do I do?
Yeah.
And so it's just one of the...
that used to be me a lot. Like, I get heckled and I was just like, I'm just going to ignore it. If I ignore it, it'll go away, right?
So do you think that you grew a lot as a comic, like when you were living, I guess, like, do you think when you were living, you said St. Paul, Minnesota? Mm-hmm. Like versus St. Paul, Minnesota versus San Diego, do you think?
Oh, I grew way more in San Diego than
Yeah.
I did. I mean, by the time I moved to St. Paul, I'd been doing comedy like 8 or 9 years, almost 10 years.
Like
So yeah, I'd already been doing it a long time. So, but my informative years in comedy was really in San Diego because, again, I started in South Dakota. I did comedy maybe 6 to 8 months. I moved out to California thinking, oh, I'm great. I'm a fantastic comedian. LA doesn't know what's about to hit them. I'm going to Cali. I'm gonna do all the things. And then I went to one open mic in San Diego, and I seen some of these comics that were doing the open mic, and I was like, yeah, I suck. Like, I immediately had that epiphany, like, at that mic. I was like, oh, my God, I'm not nearly as good as I thought I was.
Oh, man.
I need to...
What an awakening.
Oh, yeah, it was it was the very first open mic that I went to. And I don't even think I performed that night. I just went to watch and check it out. I was just curious because I just moved there. And so I went to an open mic, and I was like, yep, I'm gonna have to get better.
But I mean I guess that's good then, because that was like the juncture in your life that you needed, that you were like, oh shit, I've got to get, because I mean, I would
humble,
imagine
being humble.
Yeah,
I was had that cocky attitude where I'm like, I'm good, I'm ready for LA. I'm gonna be knocking down. Well, not necessarily cocky. I think there's a little bit of cockiness, but it's more naive, being more naive, because you're so new. You just think, and I see it a lot. I don't know if you've seen this, but you see it with newer comics where they're so naive. They think, oh yeah, I just started comedy. Within a year, I'm gonna be selling out arenas, and then it's like, no, that's not how comedy.
I never had that. I never. So so when you lived in San Diego, then Dan, how many open mics were you doing a week roughly?
It varied.
Yeah.
I mean, because I also was in a relationship, and so I had
Fuck
to,
that shit. I'm kidding.
You have to be with a particular type of person to
Yeah.
make comedy work.
Yeah.
I mean, you really do. And that person that I was with at the time was not that kind of a person to where comedy was going to work.
Oh man.
I mean, I made it work because I was more passionate about it. And I think she knew that she was not my first love. Comedy was my first love.
Right.
And so that, that kind of affected that relationship. But at the end of the day, it was better that it did not work out.
Right.
I mean, I wrote a whole one-person show about that. Yeah, shameless plug. It was supposed to be a love story. Check it out on YouTube.
You plug it, Dan.
I wrote a whole show about that relationship.
Did you say a hoe show or a
whole?
Oh, I thought you said a hoe show.
Well, maybe, yeah. I mean, show. I wrote a hoe show.
If you ever...
No, I'm just kidding.
I was like, Dan, if you ever want to reinvent your hoe show and you need to cast, let me know. I'll give you my IMDb. But that's just like, man, I mean, you are right though. It takes like a special person to like, because it's a lot of balance,
and they got to be supportive.
Right.
And they have to understand, what goes into it. And I feel like that's one of the things, like, you see comedians when they date each other, like, sometimes it either goes... and this is what I've noticed. I've never dated another comedian, but from observing other people that have, this is what I've noticed two things. There's two observations that I have about it. Mm-hmm. One, it works really well because they get along great, but being in that relationship, it works out great because they're both comedians and they know what the life is like, so they understand when you're going to be gone for weeks at a time or you're going to be out at mics, and then that also gets it so that they can go out and do those things with you.
Right.
The other side of that is it goes the complete opposit, and it is just a complete catastrophe because ego's getting in the way. Because you're seeing if your partner is getting something and you're not, and vice versa, and like egos can ruin that.
I mean, I definitely, I will be honest, Dan, like I do struggle with ego sometimes. And I know that it's one of those things where, and again, it goes back to the confidence, because like, I think that like you really have to like be able to like sell yourself and go up to people and like network, and you have to write, like, it's all the variables, like it's all the things, like you have to, want to do this and this and this in order to get better. And it's like, I do deal with an ego, but at the same time, I'm also happy for that person, because if they're out there and they're killing it and they're promoting themselves and they believe in themselves, then fuck yeah. You know
oh
what
yeah,
I mean?
absolutely.
Like,
well, and I'm coming from a perspective of it's an observation. It's not coming from experience. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like those are observations I've
Right,
seen
right.
based on other
well,
relationships.
mine is coming from experience.
But yeah, well, no,
I'm just
exactly.
saying-
And I'm just
I'm gonna fucking wrap
clarifying,
myself out.
mine
Dan.
is not. I have no experience in that. I'm just saying.
I'll
That's-
take accountability for my own actions on your podcast. But I mean, that's shit. I just lost my train of thought. Oh fuck. But yeah, I think that's the thing too. Like going back to the whole you can't control things. Like I think really stepping into your own power is like knowing where you're at in your life and knowing what you want to work on and who you want to become and kind of having an idea of what that trajectory is going to look like and then doing that. Cause I think that you can really manifest some like good stuff from that, you know? And like I've really had to learn who I am like in the past since January because I was with a comic and we hooked up right before the pandemic and you know we had only seen each other like at a few open mics, so we didn't really know one another, and so like it was good for a while and the sex was amazing, and then like I think it got to this place where I like was so I wouldn't necessarily say that I was going to use like right on his coattails and use him as a way to like help my comedy career. But, you know, it's one of those things where if you have somebody that you are dating that is a comic and they can inspire your writing, then I think that that's pretty cool. But I think we became kind of like codependent and it was unhealthy. And I came from a place of rather than wanting to be empowered and feel like a badass and doing all the things that I know that I could do and using all of my resources to want to get better and to kind of want to be fearless on stage, which is super important, that like I was at a place where I was so like afraid of losing him. And it's just like, I think it's natural to be afraid of losing somebody, but you also have to take a step back, I think, and be like, okay, like, I don't want to love bomb this person. So what do I want out of this? You know? And it's just like, it's so like, and I've dealt with like, I mean, first of all, we live in a fucking culture that's like riddled with codependency and like attachment. You know what I mean? Like it's on fucking every billboard practically, but it's like, you know, to really step into your power. And I think to be like a fierce female, to be a fierce woman, and to know what you want is super important. And like what I really envision for myself, Dan, is like stepping into that and like using like all the resources and like taking all the classes and stuff, because like I want to be the comedy mustache off his face.
I want to be the comedy mustache on his face. That's
kidding.
Amazing. That's
I'm
funny.
kidding.
That's
not.
hilarious.
It's just we're not friends right now, which is kind of sucky, but it's also like I'm really learning that like there's only so much I can do.
Yeah.
So it's a very humbling experience to like have to like let go and then to be like, now what, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't like, I want to stand out like on my own. I want to stand out because and if I have to take mushrooms here and there, fucking so be it. You know what I mean? But it's just like I want to stand out because it's something that I want for myself, you know? And like, I already know that I would be like a super supportive partner, you know, but it's just like, it's one of those things where life has really had a way of teaching me boundaries.
Well, and that's, I mean, good. Boundaries are important.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, you know, kind of like with what you're saying, it is hard to move on, but sometimes in order to, you have to just let things go,
right,
and then move, because if you don't let them go, they weigh you down and
right,
then hold you back. And
right,
to move forward and get better, you have to just, that's that, and now it's time to move on,
right,
and just keep going forward so I can keep getting better at, my, whatever you're trying to get better at. In our case, it's comedy.
Right, exactly.
I got a couple more questions for you, and then we're going to wrap up.
Sorry, I talk way too much.
No, that's all right. This has been a great conversation. I love talking about writing process.
Yeah.
You know, we talked a little about it earlier, but for you, like when you're writing a joke, what's kind of your process of writing a joke into your evolution of a joke? So you think of an idea. How long do you work on this joke before you either say, okay, this is good enough to go into my act, or it's not going to work, I either need to scrap it or shelve it?
So I would say that there are some jokes that I still like telling, even if they don't get that much of a laugh. Because like sometimes it's super interesting where, you know, it'll get a big laugh here and there. Like in one room it does really good, in another room it doesn't. So I would say that like with some of the jokes, like I love telling them so much that like I don't think I'm ever gonna let them like die out because it's true to who I am as a person. But I'll definitely, like, I've definitely been trying different things. Like, with my writing process, like, if I think of a setup, I'll write that down. If I think of a punchline, I'll write that down. I've been reading...
which comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Right.
In our case, which comes first, the punchline or the setup?
Right. But it's just like, so I'll just, anything that I think of, or like if my friend is having a discussion with another friend or something, and they'll be like, oh, Christina, I thought of you when I wrote this joke, so here you go. Or like, I mean, even if I'm having banter with somebody, you know, I've had so many conversations with friends where it's just like, it's like an improv-y conversation where it's like call back, and it's such a fun space to be in. But I think like for me, I'll try like sometimes like I try a joke and then it doesn't work and then I'll keep it. So technically to date, I haven't really thrown anything out yet. I'm just trying to like work on making it better. And I think that part of that is going to come with like the confidence and the timing. So I'm definitely doing this little thing where I'll think of like new jokes and kind of like put those at the top of the set, and then I'll keep like the older material in like the middle and then the end. So I've been trying to do that, and so far it's working pretty well. So I don't know though. Like I know that some comics like toss some of their stuff out if it's not working. But I don't think I'm that evolved yet as a comic to where I can do that.
I had Jocelyn Sharp on here.
Oh, she's really cool.
Oh, she is.
I
great.
love her.
And we were talking about this, and she said she never throws a joke. She might put it off to the side,
right?
Never throws. She don't believe in scrapping material. And you know, she had a good point because, you know, it might not be working now, but if you put it up for a while and you come back to it, maybe later you think of a different joke.
Right.
And then that joke that you just couldn't get to quite click fits together with this new thing. And then suddenly you have this amazing joke because you took these two different ideas from two different periods of time, put them together, and then now it's just amazing. Right.
And like, I think if you're going to bust your brain and like work hard to think of something creative, don't scrap it. I know some people probably do, but I'm like, no, you can keep it and then come back to it and see, you know, and maybe sometimes it's timing, you know?
Yep. Just got to figure out what's wrong, do the tinkering and tool around with it.
Yep.
Well, we're going to wrap up. What's been one of your favorite gigs that you've done so far in your comedy career?
One of my favorite gigs, I can honestly say, Dan, like every time that I've ever done, even if I look back at the tapes and the laughter's not boisterous, like I love performing at Comedy Works because it is super fun and it's really great stage time. But it's hard for me to pinpoint one because like every time that I get to do like a showcase or an open mic, it's just so much fun, you know, to like be up there and see how the set goes. And you know, you try a joke that's not worked before maybe, and then it hits that time and it's so validating. So it's just like any experience that I get with like the stage, you know, is my jam.
Fantastic.
So yeah, I love it all. You know, I want to go out of state. I want to, you know, whether it's a brewery or something, like I'm grateful for it all. So it's great.
Fantastic.
The art of bombing.
Yeah. Well, the last question is, so we have the Art of Bombing Get Pumped playlist. It doesn't have to be a song that gets you pumped just for comedy. It can get you pumped for whatever, whether it's exercising, dancing, driving. I don't care what it is. What's a song that you'd like added to the playlist?
I have a thing for, oh God, can we do 2 songs or is it just the one?
You can do 2.
Okay. I think, hold on. Oh, so the first one is Here We Go by NSYNC. Love that song. It's one of my favorite ones. And then ever since, like, I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know if somebody spiked my drink when I was 8, but like ever since I was a little girl and I lived in North Dakota with my family and we'd travel down to Springs to see my aunt and my uncle, like my favorite travel song, it doesn't matter whether it's car or plane or fucking whatever, I love Everybody by Backstreet Boys. It's my guilty pleasure. I don't know what it is, but I love it.
Well, I'll add them to the list.
Thank you,
All right,
Dan.
hey, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Where can people find you? What's your plug your social media?
So Facebook is just Christina Kleemann. My Twitter is Christina Kleemann Comedy. Instagram is Christina Kleemann Comedy. So I definitely want to post more reels on Instagram because, for real.
Yeah.
But yeah,
see what
just
you did there.
you see what I did there, Dan. But yeah, just like my first and my last name, and just watch me be silly, people, and you might be able to tell whether I've done mushrooms before if you look closely enough.
That's the drinking game. If you think Christina was doing mushrooms, take a drink or a shroom. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, this has been fantastic. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dan.
It's the art of bombing.
And that was our conversation with Christina. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. How about you, Josh? Did you enjoy that conversation?
Yeah, she's a really warm, genuine person. She seems very authentic to me.
Absolutely. And I thought we had a great conversation too. There was a lot there. I really, we talked a lot about taking improv and acting classes to help build tools, or to gather tools, if you will, in your toolbox of comedy. And I think that's important because there's always like a stigmatism of, if you take improv or comedy classes or, that it's not supposed to mix, but it's like you can get stuff from taking them. You learn other skills. And I talked about it with Christina. For me, I took some improv. I'm not ever going to do improv because I'm terrible at it, but I've taken some improv classes and it has definitely helped improve my stand-up. And improv is it's a good tool to have for writing. You can, a lot of writers, comedy writers, their experience is from, improv.
Yeah, you're standing on stage, you're improvising with people. It's a performance. There's an audience. There's no way that isn't building equity in your comedy.
No, absolutely. I mean, and anything helps, having the different skills, even with acting. I've taken a couple acting classes too, and same thing. It definitely helps. If anything, those are going to help you with be more confident on stage, which I think is very important because sometimes, it's, obviously when you're up there and you're telling jokes, there's, you have to have the timing of the joke and you have to have a good setup and a good punch, and all the things. But sometimes what really is going to sell your material or sell you as a comedian is that confidence. If people see you're on stage and they, you don't seem confident, they're not going to believe in your jokes and what you have to say because, they don't think you're, it's a weird, it's like a weird disconnect. They're like, oh, this person isn't confident. Why should I laugh at their jokes? Obviously they're not confident in it.
That's a huge part of it. Confidence is really big, and it'll help your stage presence with an acting background. As a person who has an MFA in acting, I can definitely say
I was just going to say, you've done quite a bit of acting. You should definitely be able to weigh in on this.
That's right. Yeah, I had a commercial agent in New York with Paradigm. I had a theatrical agent in New York when I was there as well. I wasn't doing comedy back then, but I was definitely getting rejected at auditions and being on stage with people. And it helps you understand the beginning, middle, and end of storytelling, or joke telling is really similar. Whether your joke's a story or if it's a standalone setup punch, there has to be some dramatic action that happens with it. That's part of the gift you can get from being in acting. The other thing I think is that you, as a performer, people can physically see you. So if you can use the rest of your body besides your mouth to tell a story, you should. It's going to help you. These very small kind of things that you do to set your water bottle down, to gesture in the story, creative use of the space. All those things open up, I think, with practice. And you practice by doing other stuff like improv and acting. I think those are really huge.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a good point, having, those other tools of, body movement and, especially because, with the acting classes and improv, there is a lot of movement. There's a lot of, that kind of thing. And that's you can use that for act outs. It can help build your act outs. Yeah. And sometimes act outs are really, really funny and a great addition to comedy. I've seen comics do such great act outs where they're not even verbal act outs. They just do physical stuff after they use the physical as like a tag. They do their setup, their punch, and then they tag it with physical comedy. And it's just amazing.
Right. And even if it's not your voice, it's handy. It's a handy tool to have in case you need it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I would challenge everybody listening, if you haven't done so already, and you've been interested in it, maybe go check out an improv class. The nice thing about, a lot of improv theaters, and obviously it depends on where you're at. You might not have access to this, but there's a lot of improv theaters, a lot of independent improv theaters throughout the country, but you don't have to sign up and pay for a class right away. A lot of times they do like basically open houses, essentially, where they'll do like orientation kind of, hey, come check it out. If you like it, sign up for classes. If you don't feel like it's your thing, no big deal, no obligation. Or they'll do, little workshop situations. So definitely go check that out. Or if you can take an acting class, I'd say you do that too. It all help you get better at comedy.
Yes, indeed.
All right, well, I think it's time to get out of here. Before we do another quick announcement, just want to let everybody know at the top end of this, we talked about our subscriber episodes. The subscription, you can subscribe for $2.99. I have to make a correction. I said that the episodes were ad-free, intro-free, and early release. That is not correct. They are ad-free, and they are early release. We are still leaving the intros in those episodes because we're talking about important things with comedy, as we did in this episode. At the top, we talked about Josh's successful weekend at Hazel's and how he applied the things that we talked about in the Between Bombs episode. So I want to make sure everybody has access to that, especially if you're subscribed and paying for the bonus material. And another thing we forgot to mention when we were talking about bonus material is Josh is going to start recording his own Art of Bombing episodes, essentially, with comics in his area. So he's going to take my role and do it there in the greater Kansas City area. But those episodes are going to be behind the paywall. So make sure you're subscribed. It's only $2.99. You can subscribe right from your app. And next week, we have another great conversation. Next week, we have Corey David on the podcast. Corey is another comic here in the Denver, Colorado area. I've had a chance to work with him a couple different times. He's amazing at crowd work. We talk about that in the episode. So that's what's going to be coming up next week. So do you have anything, Josh, or should we get out of here?
Let's get out of here.
All right, let's get out of here. That's been this week. Thanks.
Come back and see us.
Thank you for listening to the Art of Bombing podcast, hosted and produced by Dan Bublitz Jr. and Josh Shirley for Blitzed Entertainment. Nobody Had a Podcast called The Art of Bombing was written and performed by John Holt. The stand-up soundbite bumper was provided by Joe Nicola Music. Be sure to follow and subscribe to The Art of Bombing wherever you get podcasts. You can connect with us on the web at artofbombingpod.com or on all social media platforms at Art of Bombing Pod.